Okay, this is the second video on Illustrator for 243. I want to talk a little bit about some of the other tools at your disposal. Illustrator is not just about placing pictures on artboards. It also has capabilities relating to what are called vector art. And so vector art is basically usually line work, fills, things like that. And so it instead of a bitmap image like this, which would be called a raster image, it relates to things like lines and curves and stuff like that. So a good example is the logo for Einstein Brothers. It was almost certainly done in something similar to Adobe Illustrator, if you can call to mind that sort of cartoonish logo that they have. So there are many shapes here that you can work with, similar to Photoshop. If you click and hold on any of these icons, you often get, depending on whether there's a little arrow there, a series of subtools. So if I click and hold there, you'll see we have rectangle, rounded rectangle, ellipse, etc. So these have both any shape has both a stroke and a fill color. So I'm going to drag this out here. And so on this we can see up here, this is our control panel, just like in Photoshop. We have a fill color and we have a stroke color. And right now the stroke is black and it's 1 point, which is very, very small. So we could change this stroke weight to 10. And we can see this updates here. Let's go even bigger. 20. We can also choose different fill colors, like that. That, or that, or that. And then you can also pick colors from other images. And so there's an eyedropper tool, just like in Photoshop, and it's located right here. And so we could click anywhere on any of these images. But if I were to do that, what it would actually change is my stroke color right now. And this is one of the nuances that a lot of people don't pick up on for a while in Illustrator, and it's really frustrating for them. And so I'll point it out to you straight away, and you'll notice that over here, just like in Photoshop we have a background and foreground, well, we have a stroke and a fill. And depending on which one is on top, that's the one that's going to change when you use tools like the eyedropper, etc. You can hit X, and I would actually recommend using the X tool because it's faster and it doesn't affect your selected object. So if we wanted to change the fill color to maybe this blue sky color, then we could hit X, make sure the fill is on top. You'll notice the stroke looks like an empty rectangle because it's talking about the stroke around the perimeter of a shape. So now that I've hit X and this is on top, I can pick a color like that. And so, and actually it turns off my stroke when I do that, so I have to replace my stroke when I do that. So I'm going to go to the I'm going to go to the selection tool here, right there. I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to talk about some of the other tools that we can use. So one of those tools is the pen tool, and this is a tool that a lot of people sort of avoid. But it's actually quite useful. The way that it works is that you can click and place points. And right now we're using our same settings from before. So I'm going to actually delete this and hit D for default. And I'm going to say no fill. This little slash through it means no fill. And I just want a stroke, and I want it to be about 12 points. And I'm going to go back to the pen tool. There, to there, to there, to there. So you can see this could be useful for some circumstances. But it doesn't stop there. I'm going to hold down the space bar and click and drag to pan over. These are each called anchor points. And right now we've been placing hard corner points. Well, we can place soft corner points by clicking and dragging rather than just clicking. So I'm going to demonstrate that. And you'll get two handlebars, and you'll probably recognize this tool from either using it in the past or something like that. and then we can click, and that's a hard one. Click and drag, and that's a soft one. Click, click and drag, click, click and drag. So you can kind of see how that's starting to work, but there are also other pen tools up here, and if we hold down and click this, or click and hold, then we actually get these other tools here. Rather than clicking and holding all the time, if I know I'm going to be using these tools a lot, I'm going to use this tear off panel right here. So I just hover over this while my mouse is held down, and I just release, and it tears off all the pen tools, and so I can have a separate series here. So we can actually use the add anchor point tool if we choose to. We can use the subtract, so we could, let's take this away like that. You can add one. So now we have those additional points in there we can manipulate. And then we have the convert anchor point tool, which will convert something from hard to a soft, or if I click one more time, it goes back to hard. So converting, convert back. Converting, convert back. Converting, convert back. So it's just a click. There. So now one more tool that relates to this and relates to a lot of other things is not the selection tool, but the direct selection tool. And so I'm going to click on each of these, and I can actually move them using the direct selection tool. And if I select a soft anchor point, I get these handlebar curves that I can control. And think of these like magnets that pull or push on an object. And so if you just think about them like this is a magnet and this is a magnet, then they're pulling on this curve. This is actually called a Bezier curve, and it's actually available in Rhino and a lot of other tools, 3ds Max, but usually in 3D modeling they're a bit too tough to control because we're working in 3 dimensions, and they're actually a bit tough even in 2 dimensions, but they're worth learning about because you can start to create dynamic shapes that you wouldn't have been able to otherwise. So you can imagine that for logos, for designs, for anything, it's quite useful to be able to go around and convert maybe every other one of these. Here we go. Please use the convert anchor point tool. I was. So anyway, you can see that, go back to the direct selection, kind of how this works. So in the next video we're going to talk about cropping and a few other things. Some more vector stuff too. So hopefully that gets you started with the pen tool and with the direct selection tool and with fills and stroke colors, and starts to introduce some of those concepts.